Welcome, everyone. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance, and you're on a Dr. Finance Live podcast. We have an amazing guest today, but don't forget, folks, if you want to find out more about this incredible podcast, go to drfinance.info, and there's a lot of information on my podcast page. But today we have an incredible guest. He's one of the top producers in America for life insurance. He sells more insurance than the absolute majority of people out there, and all his clients are the supreme A-list of A-list celebrities. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Mike Crouppen. Welcome, Mike. How are you, sir?
I am fine. I'm happy to be here. This is my first podcast I've ever done, and you've done a great job educating me on.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you, man. And so Mike and I, we were actually hanging out in New York City. Wow, it's Thursday already. Tuesday, 2 days ago, we were hanging out for the entire day, hanging out all fancy restaurants and doing the town. So, Mike, I appreciate all your hospitality while I was there as your guest. And now I have to honor you as my guest now. So I want to thank you for being here today.
You're absolutely welcome. It's a pleasure.
So, Mike, if we can, we'll do a quick 30-second snapshot of yourself. You can tell us about yourself in 30 seconds. Then we'll get into your story, which might be about 20 minutes or so. And then we'll have some questions afterwards. So,
well, so my name is Michael J. Crouppen, and the name of my company is Crouppen Partners Insurance Services LLC. It is one of the largest independent life insurance brokerage houses in America. The home office is Beverly Hills, California, but I also live in Richmond, Virginia, and I have an office there. And my son works the Nashville office. And then I have an office in New York and Dallas. So I'm all over the place through referrals. My sole source of income is strictly referrals. And I get I'm fortunate that I get a lot of great referrals from places like Northern Trust, private equity firms, and business managers.
That's incredible. Thank you, Mike. All right, Mike. So we're going to get into your story now. So, Mike, the best thing to do really is to start chronologically. If you want to tell us about where you're originally from, and I know you said basically Roanoke, a town off of Roanoke. Is that right? And maybe a little bit more, maybe the first 10 years.
Sure. So I grew up right out in Southwest Virginia. I say Roanoke, but the town is really Salem, Virginia, which is 5 miles southwest of Roanoke, Virginia. So I grew up living with my grandparents in a rollaway bed in their bedroom. And the section that we lived in was called East Bottom. And if you wanted to take a bath, we only had one bathroom with a wood stove in it. And if you wanted to take a bath, my grandmother would heat the water on the stove and put it into the bathtub. Wow. What's funny about this, Anthony, is I did not know we were poor because that's the way life was back then. And everybody in town lived basically the same way. And no one in my family graduated from high school with the exception of me. So that's how I grew up. I attended Salem High School. I was very fortunate because I was pretty good in sports. I wrestled, played baseball, but my sport that got me into a private prep school and college was football. And it was amazing. Salem High School, my senior year, we were undefeated. And then we had to play a school out of Lynchburg, Virginia for the Virginia State Championship. And we won 3-0. It was a purely huge defensive game. What was amazing is now I'm a senior and I'm going to graduate. But back then, and Anthony, I don't know if they still have it today, you had to get at least 800 total on your SATs. And you know, they give you 400 just for saying you're Mike Crouppen. But like I said, no one in my family graduated from high school. So I took the college boards and got 790. So I had football scholarships to Georgia, Tennessee, small schools like Johns Hopkins, Washington Lee, Hampton, Sydney. And I didn't know what to do. I was lost. I had absolutely no money. And the football coach, who became like a father to me, said, Michael, I've got you an interview with the #1 prep school, boarding school in the state of Virginia. It's in Richmond, Virginia. It's 180 miles from here. And you got your interview Monday. So this was Friday. And I said, oh my goodness. So I went home and told my mother, who her name was Thelma. And I go, Thelma, I'm going to leave Monday morning and I'm going to go to Richmond, Virginia to a boarding school to see if I can talk my way into a post-grad year. And she said, I'll never forget it. She goes, Mike, how you getting there, son? We don't own a car. I go, it's okay, I'll hitchhike. So one reason, I love America, but I was so fortunate. I'm out on Route 360. I got to go 180 miles. I didn't have a sports coat, so I went to Sears, got a blue sports coat, short sleeve white sleeve shirt, and a clip-on tie. And I hitchhiked. And the first car that picked me up was a Navy SEAL. And he was going to Norfolk, Virginia, which is the largest naval base in America. So he picked me up, and to get to Norfolk, Virginia, you got to drive through Richmond, Virginia. So we get to Richmond and he goes, Mike, do you have any idea where the school is? I said, no, sir. I'd never been out of Salem, Virginia, except for playing football when we go to another school. So we stop and get a map and he finds out where it is. Anthony, it's a section of town that's very wealthy. It's in the west end of Richmond. It's by what is the Country Club of Virginia, which is ranked in the top 10 country clubs in America. It's by the University of Richmond. And he dropped me off at the prep school. And he said, Mike, good luck. I said, thank you, sir. I'll never forget this. I get out of the car, and the first thing I notice is a manicured lawn. I've never seen one, not in the mountains where I live. I see a brick building. I hadn't seen one of those either because all of our houses were wooden. I was met by the headmaster, head football coach, athletic director. They walked me in. First time I've seen hardwood floors, crown molding. I've never seen anything like this in my life. And they escort me in and they call me Mr. Crouppen. So I go into the library. I haven't seen a library like this ever. And we sit and talk and they go, we think you would be a great addition to St. Christopher's. You can help us because we want to bring in underprivileged people and we think we can help you get into college. So I said, I'm very thankful. What do I need to do? And the headmaster says, we have already made up our minds. We're going to accept you. The tuition is $1,300. I said, sir, we have a problem. I don't have $1,300. And they go, we know that. We want you to sign a promissory note. Now, I'm 17 years old, Anthony. I go, what's a promissory note? And they go, it's a note where you promise to pay us back. I said, when? They said, whenever you can. I signed the promissory note. I got accepted. I left. Took me 8 cars to get back to Salem, Virginia. I told Thelma I was accepted and I'm leaving Sunday because football practice starts Monday and I'm never coming back. She goes, what do you mean? I go, I've got my own house. They got showers. They got a gymnasium. They serve 3 meals a day. So I don't know why I need to come back to Salem. And this is true. I really want to go back, and I am going to go back this summer after being away for like almost 50 years.
Wow.
So I get in and I take all the courses, study hall 3 hours a day. And then they accepted 10 other postgrads. I guess they were all like me from different parts of the state of Virginia. We won the state championship for St. Christopher's. First time in the history of St. Christopher's, they went undefeated. And I had a wonderful time there. To be truthful, it changed my life. I met a different class of people. And I get along with people pretty well. And so one of my dearest friends, still is, was the club champion at Augusta National. His father was president of National Association of Golf. And that relationship has helped me a lot later in my life when I'm working with clients who love to play golf. And I would tell them, let's go celebrate at Augusta National. So I graduated from St. Christopher's. You're not going to believe it, but I got 801. So I went up 11 points. And so now I could accept the scholarships. So the school that I went to was called Hampton-Sydney College, all male. It's still all male today. It's one of the, but back then, this was in the 60s, there were all male, all female. Like Hampton-Sydney was all male, John Hopkins, Washington Lee, and then the girls' schools, Holland College, Sweetbriar, Mary Washington, Longwood, all girls. So I get into Hampton-Sydney, joined the Sigma Chi fraternity, and I had a wonderful 4 years there. And I had no money. So that summer I went in early. I met this girl who was a senior at Farmville High School. We started dating, and she says, you need to meet my dad, Mike. He's going to love you. I said, who's your dad? He says, he's the sheriff of Farmville, Virginia. Now, in a small southern town, who's the most powerful man in town? It's the sheriff. So we hit it off. Hampton-Sydney let me live in the dorm that summer before school started. So I got to take showers, which was a lot better than sitting in a bathtub with putting in hot water. So he got me a job working construction. And then he comes up to me and he goes, Mike, there is a restaurant dash bar for sale. You need to buy it. I go, I don't have any money. He says, Mike, I'm also chairman of the board of the Bank of Farmville, Virginia. We're loaning you the money. All you got to do is sign a promissory note. And I laughed and I go, I know what that is. And this is like my second promissory note. And I said, when do I pay it back? He said, the bar has a liquor license. You're going to be packed, Mike. So Hampton-Sydney and Longwood College. Now, Longwood College was a state girls' school, was 5,000 girls. Hampton-Sydney was 1,000 men. I like those odds. So the restaurant, I called it the Red Fox Inn, and we did very well. I mean, it was packed every night. So I was playing sports.
How old were you then?
Went to classes.
When you owned the bar? How old were you?
I beg your pardon?
How old were you when you owned that bar? You bought the bar?
I was 18.
You bought the bar at 18 years old?
Yeah, back then, alcohol, you could drink back then at 18.
That's incredible.
So I was into 2 promissory notes, ran a bar, hired the Longwood girls as waitresses. And we would have live music on Fridays and Saturdays from just local bands in that area. And I don't know if I ever attended class because, the only thing they counted was the exams. So I go through 4 years. I was president of the Sigma Chi fraternity. We had parties. Oh my God. I can't name the things we shouldn't have done. But one day I get a phone call from the dean of students, and he was like, I became like his best friend because he lived there all year long and I did. And he goes, Mr. Crouppen, because they never call you by your first name. We need to talk. I said, yes, sir. So I go over to his house and he said, we've been hearing rumors that the Longwood girls are spending the night at the Sigma Chi house. And the rules are everybody, all the females have to be off the campus by 12 midnight. I go, yes, sir. And let me tell you something, Dean Ortner, those girls did spend the night. He goes, Mike, what are you telling me? I go, well, they were drinking, sir. Now, think about this. Would it be right if they got in their car and drove back to Farmville under the influence of alcohol? And he goes, I commend you, son. You're absolutely correct. You did the right thing. So it was like 4 years. I kind of ran the school, the college. I got out my senior year. I'm drinking a Pabst Blue Ribbon beer, and the phone rings on the wall of the Sigma Chi house. And it's Coach Joe Teefee, who was like one of the coaches at either Randolph-Macon College or Johns Hopkins. I'll never forget his words as long as I live. He said, Mr. Crouppen. I said, yes, sir. He said, son, if you are as tenacious in selling life insurance as you were playing football, you'll make a lot of money. So I'm 21 now. I go, Coach, what's a lot of money? And he goes, we're going to pay you $400 a month. And you're going to move to Richmond, Virginia, and you're going to work for an insurance company called Provident Mutual Life Insurance Company of Philadelphia. I took the job, bought my first car. Damn, I wished I still had it. A 1969 baby blue Camaro with 4 on the floor, $69 a month. Found an apartment for $88 a month. So I thought to myself, this is great. So 1976, I was the #1 life insurance salesman in the nation for Provident Mutual. And I go to the coach and tell him I'm leaving. I want to start my own firm. I want to be independent. I want to represent at least 50 life insurance companies. That way I have 50 underwriters. I can play them off one another, and I have more products to offer my clients. And I'll never forget his words. Well, son, what am I going to do? I said, Coach, you're coming. You're going to be the CEO of Crouppen Partners. I hate management. And we built the largest practice on the East Coast. And then the strangest thing happened. 1996, 97, I get a phone call from the #1 sports agent in America in Beverly Hills, California. His clients were Jose Canseco, Barry Bonds, Bobby Bonilla, Ricky Henderson, George Brett Saberhagen, you name them. And he said, Mike, you should leave Richmond, Virginia and move to Beverly Hills, California. I want to set up a life insurance practice that you can run, because I know every business manager, every lawyer, and I've got all these clients. And he said, if you leave, you'll make a lot of money. I said, wow, this is the second time I've heard this story. I said, what's a lot of money? He told me, pardon me, I went, there is no blank way you can make that kind of money selling life insurance. His exact words were, this is not Richmond, Virginia. So I tell my wife, and she says, go try it. So my daughter had 2 more years in prep school. And so I moved to Beverly Hills. I only knew one person, which was him. And so I moved into the Beverly Wilshire Four Seasons Hotel. I worked out a great deal with the general manager. And I changed the culture because I wanted everybody to wear coat and ties. And honest to God, we built up a client list of a who's who. I mean, I paid Michael Jackson's death claim. I paid Christine McVie, Joe Cocker. I mean, the lead drummer for another, but I mean, it's phenomenal. And then I've moved out to practice to entrepreneurs, thanks to a great lawyer at Northern Trust who we hit it off with. And what made our firm so special was I developed an underwriting process that no other agent has. And it's confidential how we do it, but we do everything called informally. We don't submit anything to the underwriters until we have everything so clean. In other words, we clean it up. We can't change things, but we can call the doctor to see if he can explain why he said the words he said in the attending physician statements. And so one referral led to another referral. And then we joined a master brokerage firm. It's the largest in the United States, called Lion Street, out of Austin, Texas. I think I was the first firm they hired back in 2010. And we've always been in the top 3 to 4 firms of the 170 firms that they have. So my passion is this, very simple. I love meeting people. I love building relationships. And I love explaining one of the greatest financial instruments ever invented by mankind, called life insurance. And that is a quote from Michael Bloomberg. The exact quote is this: how would you like to buy a financial instrument from a AAA company where it's guaranteed any money you put into it will grow income tax free? Any money you take out will grow income tax free. Should something happen to you, the money will go to your beneficiaries income tax free. I said, wow, this is fabulous. So then we just built up the clientele, and it gets bigger unfortunately, it gets bigger every year. People say, when you retired? I go, I retired the first day I came into the life insurance business, because I love meeting people. It's just, I love building relationships. And my philosophy has always been this, Anthony: find one thing you love in life, be the best at it, and stay with that one thing. Do not deviate, and you become successful. So that's how I built the firm up.
That's brilliant.
We're in a lot of cities now.
How many cities?
So we're in Nashville, Richmond, Dallas, New York, Beverly Hills, and I have so many great stories to tell. They're phenomenal how we got insurance on people like Ozzy Osbourne, Michael Jackson, some of the lead singers of these big bands. I mean, it's hilarious, some of the stories I could tell. And they're all funny, how I did it. So I'm not planning on going anywhere. Right now I'm in New York City, and had the opportunity of being introduced to you and have the first opportunity of ever doing a podcast.
Well, you're doing great, Mike. I appreciate that. Mike, I just want to step back to your early years, because obviously you're very successful, but what I like to highlight is people's struggles that they went through to showcase the fact that it's not easy to get where they're at. It just doesn't happen in the blink of the eye. So what was it like growing up poor in Salem, Virginia? If you want to just tell us a little bit about that, maybe a moment or two.
Sure,
And
sure.
also, like what does it feel like to have a bath with hot water that you actually have to keep filling up over and over again? How does that process even look like?
Well, first of all, Anthony, honest to God, I did not know we were poor. I mean, the whole neighborhood was like that. And it was kind of natural. My grandmother would heat the water on the wood stove, put it in the bathtub. So realistically, I probably only took 2 baths a week. So, and Salem High School is not a wealthy place, Salem, Virginia, at that time. So we were all middle class, lower class Americans, and we all had one thing in common. We loved the high school, and we all grew up like this the same way. So I don't think any of us knew we were poor. But I will tell you this. I have an older sister, 5 years older than me, and she got married when she was 15. So I'm thinking, wow. And I remember going back to my mother's funeral. I moved my parents to Richmond, Virginia when I started doing well. And at the funeral, my sister and I started talking, and she said, Michael, wasn't it so sad we grew up so poor? And her name's Donnabelle. Because in the South, you have 2 names. So I go, Donnabelle, I didn't know we were poor. She said, why do you think I got married at 15 and left? I go, I have no idea. I was only like 9 years old. All I knew, there was more room in the house at one time in my life. So I really enjoyed, honest to God, I enjoyed growing up the way I grew up. I enjoyed my high school, and I enjoyed all my years in college.
How about your parents and your grandparents? What were they doing for providing food for?
So my father served in World War II. He was one of the original soldiers that landed on Omaha Beach in the first wave. So if you've seen the movie, it's unbelievable. He got shot twice in the shoulder and the leg. And then after that, he went to the Korean War. And my mother worked selling, well, we're not selling, in a factory where they cut the chickens up and make meat and everything. And my grandmother, my grandfather died of lung cancer because he smoked probably 5 packs a day. Grandmother never smoked. And you'll love this. When I was in college, and she knew I had no money, but she didn't know I was now operating a restaurant and all this. She would send an envelope of cash to Hampton-Sydney College, Hampton City, Virginia. And on the envelope, it would say, Mike. Open it up to be $20 or $15. Yeah, that was pretty good. And all said it was Mike, but the school knew me, and they knew that he came out of Salem, Virginia, and it was for me. So they'd call me up and say, Mike, you got an envelope from your grandmother, come pick it up.
It's like Christmas.
So, like I said, I grew up happy. I really did. And then when I had enough money, I moved my parents and everybody, bought them their first house in their life in Richmond, Virginia.
That's really nice. Did you have a lot of jobs growing up, like entrepreneur jobs, paper boy, bus boy?
Oh yeah, I delivered papers. I would go down the alleys because back then all the houses had an alley out back where the trash people would come pick it up. And I learned that if you collect Coca-Cola bottles, because Coca-Cola is a big drink in the South, you could take them to the store and get 2 cents for each bottle. So I did that every day. And then I got a construction job. And I didn't have to join a union or anything. But my hours were at 12 midnight to like 7 in the morning. And I got to meet a whole nother different class of people that were fun to be around. So, but the best thing that happened to me and how I fell into it was I found out that I was one of the best and greatest in life insurance and helping my clients. Because life insurance is the one financial instrument that's always there. If you want something to show up, that's going to show up.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Mike. And also, you know, the Sigma Chi fraternity, it's amazing. We both are fraternal brothers. I found that was very interesting. Maybe you can, do you want to share maybe 1 or 2 stories about your celebrities? You know, how you came about getting them insurance? I don't know if you have the permission to do it, but it's totally your call.
I do. Well, getting Michael Jackson insurance was not easy. So, so I have my own private physician. I don't use insurance companies, Portameds, for 2 reasons. My clientele is so highly respected. And when you order a paramed, like 99% of life insurance agents do, you don't know who's going to show up to do the physical. First thing is they could be socially unattractive. I don't want that. Second thing is they're not real physicians. They can miss a vein. I don't want that. So when we did Michael Jackson, I promise you, he was clean as a whistle. There was nothing wrong with this man. And the only problem I had was the insurance industry, the carriers, John Hancock, Pacific Life, Principal, Penn Mutual, they were all scared of him. And I said, look, guys, anybody that can dance like that, you shouldn't be scared of. And so basically, for education, a chief underwriter from a major company, like the ones that I mentioned, the chief underwriter has the authority to issue up to 20 million of life insurance, which they keep what we call in-house. In other words, Lincoln, John Hancock, you want 20 million, one underwriter is going to look at it, it's going to be the chief, and he's going to make the decision on your medical classification. Now, medical classification is the most important thing when you purchase life insurance. Sadly, most agents never discuss with their clients how pricing works on life insurance. So I would say 90% of the people who purchase insurance are listed as standard non-tobacco. Anthony, that just means you're normal. You have normal mortality. Underwriters feel comfortable, Anthony standard. Now, if you go back to the underwriter and you can get him to move the classification to preferred non-tobacco, it's a 28% discounting cost. That's tremendous. So once I get one carrier at preferred, I get them to give it to me in writing, and then I send it to my other carriers. Go, hey, you got standard, I got preferred here, you got to match it. They all match it. It's unbelievable. Wow. Then once I get that, and I know what we're looking for, the type of insurance, what's it going to be used for, I call one of the carriers that specialize in that division, and I go, we'll give you the case if you move it to super preferred, which is the highest medical classification one can obtain. and only 6 or 7% of the population get it. That's a 36% discount off the cost of insurance. So with Michael Jackson, the companies were scared, so the chief underwriter who could do 20 would only do 10 because they were a little scared. Some would only do 5. So it took me 12 companies to accumulate the insurance at that time in his life, which was 50 million. But we got it together, delivered it to his estate planning lawyers, and they paid for it. But the best story you're gonna like is my Ozzy Osbourne story.
Mike, I just want to pause here real quick. Why does someone, not just Michael, but why does a celebrity need that much money, $50 million, when an average person might need only 5 to 10 million max, maybe $1 million for a policy? What is the rationale for obtaining that much life insurance?
Have you ever heard of a tax called the federal estate tax?
Yes.
Okay, that's a tax on your wealth when you die. You cannot escape that tax unless you give 100% of your net worth to charity. So if Michael Jackson's worth $100 million, his federal estate tax would be about $50 million. So how you pay that tax? There's only 2 ways. You can sell the assets that he has, use that money to pay the tax. Or if you're smart, you'll lay the claim off to an insurance company where you pay 10 cents on the dollar. So that type of insurance is purchased by very wealthy people to pay the federal estate tax.
Yeah, because option one, if you had to sell everything and let's say a 9-month window or whatever that estate time is, yeah, you're going to have an emergency liquidation, and emergency sale prices are anywhere from what, 30 to 75% of the value itself. So like 20 to 30 cents on a dollar for everything you own.
Anthony, you're so correct, because once people know you got to raise the money, they're not going to give you the real cost. So when I did Michael Jackson, honest to God, he had no money, but he had one asset. And that asset today is probably close to $3 billion. Do you know what that asset was?
Well, I know now.
He owned,
you told me on Tuesday.
He owned 49.9% of the Beatles collection. One of the smartest investment moves ever made in his entire life.
How much was it valued at the time of his estate? About 100 million?
Oh, if that back then, but the Wall Street Journal came out with an article that his federal estate taxes that he owed when he passed away was close to 400 million.
Wow.
So I didn't sell enough life insurance.
That's funny.
But I would have never been able to get him any more because he got on bad drugs or whatever it is.
Mm.
But the funniest story you're going to love is Ozzy Osbourne. You're going to love it. So I get a call from a private equity firm in New York City. And it's a woman lawyer. And she calls me up. She goes, Mr. Crouppen, we've been referred to you. We have a client who's getting ready to sign an MTV contract. I don't know if you remember this. This was a while back when Ozzy got this contract on MTV. And it's a $30 million contract. And we can't finish the contract because the private equity firm wants $30 million of key man life insurance to protect themselves. And I go, okay, can I ask you some questions? She said, sure. I said, have you tried? She said, yes, we've tried to get him the insurance. And I go, do you mind telling me the firms you went to? And I said, yeah, I mean, let me tell you why. I don't want to go to those carriers. She said, why? I said, hasn't he already been declined from those carriers? And she said, yes, they declined him. I said, of course they did. He can barely talk. So I can't go to them. So you got to let me know who the two carriers were so I can stay away. Then I said something that extremely important. I said, please tell me, ma'am, you did not sign a formal application. She said, we did. I said, well, first of all, you picked the two wrong life insurance firms to go to. You should never, ever submit a formal application to an insurance company unless you already know in writing what his medical classification is. So when you submit a formal and you're declined, it's posted on something called MIB, Medical Information Board. Stays there for 5 years. So I'm now going out trying to get him insurance with Lincoln, maybe. First thing they're going to type in is MIB. Mass Mutual declined him. Northwestern declined him. Why now is an underwriter going to take a chance? Well, she said, no one told me this. I said, well, now you know. Never submit a formal. So I had a game plan, and you're going to love my game plan. The chief underwriter of Lincoln Financial was a dear friend of mine. And I called him up and I said, when can you come to Beverly Hills? I got a client I want to talk to you about. I said, Mike, I can come anytime. So we made dinner arrangements at Mastro Steakhouse because he likes a steak, a cigar, a martini, and he loves to flirt with women. He's a normal male. So we go to Mastro's. It's packed with gorgeous women. I call him up and tell him I'm running 15 minutes late. He goes, no problem. So I show up. He introduces me to the people he's talking to. I excuse myself and we go outside on the balcony and talk. And he goes, Mike, what do you need, buddy? And this is exactly what I said, Anthony. I want a little bitty $1 million policy on one of my entertainment clients. His exact words to me, he goes, Mike, I'm chief underwriter. I can do 20 million on my name. I go, I don't need 20 million. He would never give me 20 million. I said, I just need a little 1 million. And by the way, what did I tell you about these entertainment clients? He said, you told me they were like cockroaches, they never die. And I go, that's right. That's exactly right. So he said, I'll give you the $1 million. Like 20 minutes later, after the third martini, he goes, well, who's the client? I go, Ozzy Osbourne. He says, you got to be blank kidding me. There's no way that man's insurable. So his name was Jordan. I said, Jordan, you already gave me $1 million. He goes, you're right, you can have the $1 million because it wouldn't show up if something happened to him, which by the way, nothing's happened to him. So 2 days later, I call him up and say, can I get it in writing? He says, I thought you would forget. I go, no. So I get it in writing. I call up the chief underwriter of AXA Equitable, New York City. I've known him 20 some years. I go, I need a favor, little bitty favor. He goes, what's that? I need a $1 million policy on one of my entertainment clients. Who's the client? Ozzy Osbourne. He goes, Mike, you got to be crazy. I go, hold on. So we call Jordan up. All the chief underwriters know each other. Jordan goes, I think I was set up, but I gave Mike $1 million. The Equitable guy gave me $1 million. This is true. 18 phone calls later, I had $20 million.
Wow.
Still in force. He's still around. So I kind of did that with all the Steven Tyler, all the bands that were doing stuff back in those days. And then I just recently had one of my most famous clients who, honest to God, was a great human being. Funny, talented, great to be around. His name was Pele. One of the greatest, probably the greatest soccer player at one time in the world. And I get a call from a private equity firm, and they go, Mike, we hear you can get insurance on anybody. I go, I'm pretty good. So he goes, we're buying all of his rights, images, everything for 60 million. We need 60 million. I go, okay, it's not going to be easy. So I get the medical records. They're all in Portuguese. So I got to get them interpreted. Then I got to fly my doctor into New York City because he owned a condo at the Four Seasons Hotel to do the EKG, the physical, and the blood profile. So the next day I'm sitting with two huge known personalities that you would know. And the doctor calls me up and he goes, we got a problem. I said, what's the problem? He says, prostate. His prostate is abnormal. And I go, I don't understand. Because didn't you tell me he had a prostate exam biopsy 3 months ago? Yes, Michael, it's clean as a whistle. I said, then how could it, what is it now? He goes, 21. I went, what? He goes, it's got to be 4 or less. So he said, Mike, you got to find out how many times a day this man is shagging. I went, what? I learned something new that drives your prostate up. So we go to him, we hire a private security firm, stay there for 1 month. We don't allow him to leave. We come back and do the blood profile. The PSA was normal. So everybody was happy. So every time I see Sharon at a steakhouse, she gives me a hug and says, thank you so much. I don't know how you did it, but we want to thank you. So I got like 100 of these stories of things that we do and how we do it. But it's my drive and my love of doing this for people. And I do not settle ever unless the guy's substandard for standard. I want to get the best pricing that a client can get because they remember that.
That's brilliant.
Then they refer you to somebody else. So my whole business is referrals.
Thank you, Michael. And Michael, just to round out your story, so now you live in Beverly Hills, what, two weeks a month, something like that?
Yeah, I split my time between my house in Richmond and Beverly Hills. And then about once a month, I would visit all the other offices.
I see. And what's it like living in Beverly Hills?
Oh my God. You take a Southern boy like me who grew up in the South and you put him in Beverly Hills all by himself. It was unbelievable. It was truly unbelievable. But I got to know everybody. So I got to know all the service people, all the hotels, the Bel Air, the Beverly Hills, the Peninsula, the Beverly Wilshire. And so I always knew who to call to get what I needed. And when clients would come in or my centers of influence would come in, I knew exactly what hotels to put them in. I knew the discounts. But it was a real change in life between Richmond, who's a very conservative city, and Beverly Hills, California. But I enjoyed it.
What's a typical day like for a celebrity in Beverly Hills?
For a celebrity?
Yeah.
Well,
what do they do
I
out
don't
there?
know what their typical day is, but mine is I get up every day at 4:30. I work out. and I'm in the office at 7 a.m. And the reason is 7 a.m. is 10 a.m. your time. So I work all my East Coast clients between 7 and 10.
Mm,
And then I do all my West Coast clients after that.
that's smart.
So I'm always booked for lunch or afternoon and dinner with either a lawyer, a business manager, or the client itself.
How do you stay in shape eating dinner out, eating all these meals out so much?
Well, remember, I get up at 4:30 and work out. I will tell you this, Anthony, because you and I were together. I'm cutting down on martinis. I'm serious. No more 3 or 4 martinis a night. I'm cutting down to 1 martini. And then my wife was telling me it's still full of sugar, which I didn't know. So then she said, well, you should try tequila because it doesn't have any sugar. So now I have my 1 martini because I do love it. And then I switch over to tequila.
Mm.
So I'm down to like, that's it.
But do you enjoy the tequila? The other day you kind of switched back to the martini.
I know, I was with you. I don't know. It's something about the taste that I'm not used to.
I think one trip to Mexico will fix that.
Plus, when they ask me what kind would you like, I don't know the brands, but I know every brand of vodka, but not martinis.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate you. All right, so Michael, we're gonna pivot into questions now. So we have probably about 25 questions. Figure about a minute, 2 minutes each, something like that, and we'll round out the bases. So the first question, some of them aren't really questions; they're just topics. I usually ask a lot of the speakers their books. We've had all kinds of famous folks, writers on here and speakers and whatnot. In your case, I don't believe you have any books. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, but I'll leave this question open because this might be an opportunity to talk about a future book that we might be able to put together. What do you think?
Everybody has told me, all my entertainment clients, the lawyers, everybody's, Mike, you got to write a book of how you grew up and how you got to Beverly Hills. It's like from the hills of Virginia to Beverly, whatever you want to call it. People would love to hear the story because in America, you can make it. This country allows you the opportunity to be the best at what you want to be. But the key is you got to find something you love, Anthony. And you got to be the best at it. So I would love to write a book. I think people would love to hear how you can do it. And you can do it in America. You can rise to anything you want in America. My favorite saying is, and everybody will tell you, I love America. That's my favorite saying.
Thank you, Michael. So Michael and I, we're going to be working on a book together. I'm going to help Michael get that masterpiece out to the world. So Michael, any thoughts on how we should create this masterpiece? Maybe we can bring some of the celebrities in and things of that sort. What do you think? Give endorsements.
I don't think we will have any problem with that because I'm pretty close to my network of clients because I believe in the word touching. Just even though you're not trying to sell them insurance because you already done that, you just call them up, say, how's your day? How's everything? How are the kids? Because I always want to know about their family. Like one of my favorite people in the world I called, and their daughter just got accepted. She got accepted at 3 great college, Spelman, NYU, and Howard. And she just chose Howard. So I called to congratulate her.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Michael. All right, Michael, you're doing great so far. We're moving on to our next question. Let's talk about the significance of the Chartered Life Underwriter, CLU designation from the American College. I didn't realize you had that too. So I actually got several destinations from there too, including CLU. And I got my master's degree from the American College before I got my PhD. So, and later on, I found that they didn't have a PhD in financial planning at that time. They
Right.
did after I got my doctor's degree, and I would have, truthfully, I would have just went all out and did the whole thing with them. It was just a matter of timing, you know. But what's your thoughts on the American College, the CLU? I mean, it's been around, I think, since the 1920s,
It
right?
has. I think it's important, if life insurance is your career, to have your CLU degree. It's just a step above. But I sell life insurance simplistically. You know, I describe it as a financial instrument, like a mortality bond. I don't deviate my sales talk very much. And so the CLU is just like a little extra great thing to have behind your name. And now you can have another ones behind you. There are 2 or 3 additionals now that you can have, but I don't feel it's necessary. Not for someone who's been in the business 50 some years like me.
It was the original powerhouse for life insurance, right? The designation that made
Yep.
people, you know, look like they've are a master at that specific tool, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
It's amazing. American College. Have you ever visited the campus?
You know, I have not. Have you?
Yeah, I went because I did the master's degree. They have, it's only a half hour from Philly. It's really nice campus.
Well, next time I come visit you personally, you'll take me there.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's got a lot of great programs too. So, all right, next question would be, so you've already mentioned some of the celebrities you work with. Any other celebrities you want to mention that you've worked with? Because I mean, it's like an arm length of a list and more.
As I mentioned, I told you I was going to send you over the list. It's really a who's who list. I got a lot of country western, and I got a lot of people in the, you know, actor or actress. They're an actor, you know, like Chris Hemsworth, the James Bond character, Sir Michael Caine. I mean, I got a portfolio of clients.
Thank you, Michael. All right, Michael, you're going to love this question. Should rich people buy yachts and jets?
You know, depending on how rich you are, it's a great way to provide comfort and easy to get back and forth, but it's expensive.
Is it
I
worth
can't
it?
say whether they should or not, but I do have a lot of clients, not so much in the entertainment business, but in the entrepreneurial business, that are billionaires. And every one of them own their own private plane and 3 or 4 houses. And it's all been good to me because the last insurance case I did was in Houston, and it was a $500 million life insurance policy. Took me 17 companies to gather that much insurance. So God bless them if they're wealthy enough to do all that.
Wow. Incredible. You think it's worth it? I mean, if someone's worth, let's say, 5 billion or more, should they own a yacht?
Why wouldn't they?
Right.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't they? If I had that money, I'd do it. And then I'd come by and pick you up and say, where do you want to go for dinner? Let's go someplace we've never been.
Yeah, we can eat on a plane and go anywhere.
Go anywhere.
Thank you, Michael. All right, Michael, this next question is a very interesting one. So it's a mouthful. So let me see if I can say this right. If a poor person living in a poor place with no opportunities shifts from more of her or his time to being in places to be in places entrenched with rich people with more opportunities, how much faster would they become a success? Now, let me just prep this. So being in New York with you on Tuesday, we stayed in a very wealthy area, and I took a walk in Central Park yesterday morning, and just walking around, and between just anybody can go to Central Park. You can be from the poorest neighborhoods of New York and go into Central Park, right? As long as you can
Right.
afford the bus. You could be you could work as a bell person for one of these hotels. You could also go to a cafe
Yep.
that sells $10 muffins, right? Like, so anybody can be there. So if they find a way to shift their time, it's about time, right? Moving from a poor place, kind of like where you lived in Salem, and shifting a place with no opportunities to keep shifting more of their time to places full with wealthier people with more opportunities. Do they increase the likelihood of becoming a success?
Absolutely, it does. It really does. Listen, when I graduated from college, I had no idea what I was going to do. I mean, I barely graduated from high school. I barely graduated from Hampton-Sydney. So I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. I didn't know anything. And then I got that magic phone call about going into the life insurance business. Now think about this. I go to a prep school that I got in, luckily. I go to a real high academic college, which is ranked one of the top in America. And I get a phone call to sell life insurance. Okay, life insurance? You gotta be kidding me. So I didn't understand what I was really getting into until I got into it and saw the magic of life insurance. It's magical. Think about people that are not really wealthy, that they go and there's a tragedy, the husband, what's the only financial instrument they can count on that will be there within 10 days tax-free? Name any other instrument. There is none. Only life insurance. And you owe it to your family. Now, if you don't love your family, you're not going to buy it. I always tell people that. You're just not going to buy it. But if you love them, you're going to buy it. And the family deserves it.
But going back to the question, Michael, let's just say someone who is, trying to get into and they come from poor places with no opportunities. So they show up in Park Avenue and they start hanging out at these coffee shops full of wealthy people. And maybe they only buy a cup of coffee. That's all they can afford. Right. And they find a way to maybe get a job working for one of these folks, carrying their bags or something. Over time, eventually, they'll increase the likelihood of, just by listening and being around these folks, of something more positive happening that wouldn't have happened in Salem, Virginia, or some other poorer place like what you grew up in, where there was no opportunities at all. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree with you, what you just said. If you're like the bellman at a famous hotel, you're going to meet a lot of famous people, a lot of high net worth people. And your job is to remember their name, what they do, and take care of them. And eventually you'd be shocked. They may come to you and say, how long have you been doing this, that? You've got type of personality. How would you like to maybe come work for us? You'd be shocked.
Yeah, if they liked you, why wouldn't they, right? Like they would want to help you, bring you up.
That's the key.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michael. Best tips for entrepreneurs and how to be successful. Maybe 30 seconds.
How to be an entrepreneur and how to be successful? Is that the question?
No. Your best tips for entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs, old school entrepreneurs, how to be successful?
Well, what I've discovered is find one thing that you're good at. Well, I don't know what business it is. I don't know if it's numbers. I don't know, whatever it is. But all you have to do to be really successful in life is find one thing you love. That's it. What do you love to do? And be the best at it. And don't deviate. Do not deviate. Stay on course and you'll be successful.
That's a brilliant response. Brilliant response. Thank you, Michael. Michael, why is giving back important for wealthy people? Okay, now you're wealthy. You got all this money, right? Like, why is giving back so important?
Why are they giving back?
Why is charity important? Why is helping people for wealthy people? Why is that important?
Well, let me just say this. It depends on how they got wealthy, where they came from. If it's trust money that came down from trust to trust, and they never really had to work because they always knew they had a lot of money and sitting in a trust account, that's a different class of people. And maybe they have so much they could give charity, but I have found out that the people who really give to charities are the people who worked and made their company hugely successful, and they want to give back. They want to give back to St. Christopher's, where I went. You want to give back to Hampton, Sydney. And if you find a cause that you truly believe in, you want to get back.
Thank you, Michael. Michael, next question. What role should ethics play in business?
100%. 100%. Ethics is important. Honesty is important. You know, the hardest thing sometimes I have to tell a client is you're uninsurable. I tried everything I could. I couldn't do it.
Thank you, Michael. Michael, what should people without money who become rich fast be aware of? So people got no money, all of a sudden they come into this whirlwind of money, whether their business is taking off to the moon or they hit the lottery, whatever. What should they be aware of?
What should they be aware of?
Yeah.
All the people they never knew coming after.
Or they got a life insurance check for 50 million and they're like, whoa, what do I do? And we know those
Well,
people.
they had one like that. There was a reason it was purchased.
Yeah.
And usually a policy of that side is held inside an irrevocable life insurance trust. So basically, the terms of that trust determines where that 50 million goes.
All right, that was a bad example. Let's just say an average person whose mom or dad passed away or someone they loved got even $1 million life insurance check and they have no money. So $1 million to them looks like they just own the world. And they just start blowing it. Like, what's your advice for people like that? They got this whirlwind of money, and they have no knowledge of money at all.
I hope they got good friends that can help them with it, because you're right. You could blow that in 1 year.
Yeah. Thank you.
Which by the way, Anthony,
Uh-huh.
surround yourself with good people. Get rid of the people who are hanger owners. Just get rid of them. Surround yourself with good people.
That's beautiful, beautiful advice. Why is life insurance important? So I know we've talked about it a lot, but let's just try to step back for a second, because some people don't even really understand what life insurance is. Why is it important?
Well, let me describe it to you this way. Well, I think I already told you what Michael Bloomberg said. Michael Bloomberg said the greatest invention ever invented by mankind is life insurance for the following reasons. Once you purchase it, you're purchasing it from a AAA carrier. Well, you've never heard of a life insurance going under. You have banks, but not life insurance. So if you look at life insurance, it's like a mortality bond, right? I mean, it's going to pay off when the person passes away, but it's got distinct characteristics built in to that product, that financial instrument. So life insurance is flexible. You can buy term life insurance, which just provides protection, like 20-year term. I know I'm covered. Anything happens for me for the next 20 years. 21st year, you're out of luck. It's gone. You can buy permanent, which means you've got insurance all the way to age 100 or 110. And you have the opportunity, if you want, to, for a better word, dump more money into the policy than what's required. So in other words, if $1 million policy costs $50,000 a year, depending on the age, the Internal Revenue Service will allow you to put $500,000 a year into that policy. Now think about that. Why would you want to do that? Well, this financial instrument allows tax-free growth. So any money you put into life insurance grows income tax-free.
And the sooner you get that lump sum in, the faster the compounding effect kicks in.
Absolutely. Let's suppose you need that money 20 years from now, 30 years from now. Did you know that money comes out income tax-free? There's not many, name a financial instrument that accumulates income tax-free and comes out income tax-free.
Well, you
By the
can
way,
say
should-
IRAs or 401ks, but they're not financial instruments. They're vehicles that hold the financial instruments inside it.
right.
So other than that, no.
And depending on how you design the policy, if anything happens to you, the beneficiary gets 2 checks, not 1. They get the death protection check and they get all the cash in the policy. Tax-free. It's a great instrument. Once a person understands it, it's a great instrument.
And also it's helpful for families when someone passes away. It helps the burden of dealing with immediate problems by funding their life and giving them time to get through this tragedy that they're facing.
Absolutely correct. Remember, it's the only instrument that's going to arrive within 10 days tax-free. Nothing else. But depending on who you are and how much you need, there will be other people showing up. Can I borrow some money?
Thank you, Michael. Why is insurance in general, for maybe 30 seconds, why is insurance in general important? Not just life insurance, but insurance.
To protect whatever you have. If you've got a jewelry portfolio, something, you get robbed, you should have insurance covering that. If you own a house, you better have insurance covering the house. In fact, I don't even think you can get a house unless you have insurance. You got to have car insurance. You should have malpractice insurance. You should have all forms of liability insurance. So all these things cover you in case something happens.
Brilliant. Thank you, Michael. Michael, you're doing great. Why is it important? I'm sorry. How does insurance fit into someone's financial plan? So we talked about insurance, life insurance. How does it integrate in? So I was a financial planner for 10 years before I became a professor. Financial planners, they look at all the different aspects: estate planning, retirement, insurance, investing, college funding. How does insurance fit into that scheme of
It absolutely is one of the most important components that should be fitted into what you just said. For many reasons. First reason is, what happens if something happens 1 year into your financial plan? You haven't had enough time to build up the assets. Life insurance solves that problem. Then you have you built up everything, you become hugely successful, and then you go, why do I need the life insurance? And that's when you speak with your tax attorney and he goes, well, we got a federal estate tax problem. So we need life insurance to pay the tax. Because you worked 40 years or so, or whatever, to build this fortune, right? 50% of it disappears. We can prevent that by life insurance.
Brilliant.
So it's definitely needed when you're starting off in life, definitely.
Yeah, especially if you have a family on the way. As soon as you get your first kid, you should be thinking about life insurance, like probably 9 months before you have that, at least, right?
Yeah. And look, depending on your income, it's really inexpensive. You can start off with term insurance. I mean, if you get preferred or super preferred rates, $1 million of term insurance is probably $800 or $900 a year. That's all. Maybe less.
Thank you, Michael. Michael, so I want to talk about, why is it important to look your best? We had this conversation the other day. Many people today don't really take dressing up too seriously. So why is that wrong? Like, why is it better to look your best, especially in the right situation? Why do you wear a suit and tie almost everywhere you go? I mean, you're one of the top style guys that I've heard about in Beverly Hills. So I mean, you dress very, very well. Your style is incredible. Yeah. So
Well,
why is it important though?
people used to wear suits all the time. People used to dress up. Then all of a sudden, the pandemic hits for 3 years, and people never stop wearing sweats again, or sports coats or suits. My feeling is, if you look good, it projects it. You meet people and you give them a sales pitch. Day later, 2 days later, 3 days later, they may forget what you said, but they won't forget two things. Two things they would never forget. Number one is how he looked. God, I've never seen a guy dressed like that. And number two, how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's important. You walk away, you might not get to sell, it's okay, but it's how you made them feel and how you look. They will never forget those two things.
Yeah, that's funny. My father's like one of the top dressers here in Philadelphia, and I bumped into a guy 2 weeks ago at the barber shop, and he couldn't remember his name, but he goes, that guy's a sharp dresser. Every time I see him, he's wearing a suit. You're right. And the feeling part and the look part, they're attached to his exact response.
Exactly right.
So thank you, Michael. Appreciate you. Style tips. What is your style tips? Maybe for the box cut or any style tips? Yeah.
Well,
Did I say it right? What's that called? A box cut?
I like to wear ties, and I like to wear pocket squares.
Pocket square. Sorry, pocket square.
And then the best pocket squares you can buy are from a company called Hermes. They're unbelievable pocket squares. So I probably got 100 pocket squares, and I intermix them with the suit or the sports coat that I'm wearing. And the same with ties. And so if I'm wearing a white shirt, I may wear a white pocket square. It just depends on the attire. And people notice. And then one of my good friends said, wouldn't it be nice to have a little flower on the other end of the lapel?
Oh yeah.
So just a little flower.
That
So
does
I
look
did
nice.
that. And then look, it's like my jewelry. People notice. They notice how you look, how you were dressed, and how you made them feel. And if I'm in a sweat in doing a life insurance interview, they're gonna know what's wrong with this guy. It's not gonna work.
All right, Michael, you're doing great. Michael, here's another quick question I have for you. How do you live a longer, healthier life?
Love what you do, okay? And that makes you happy. I'm very happy selling life insurance because I know I improve people's life at the exact moment it's needed. 2, work out, stay in shape. It's funny. When I go back to the South and all my buddies that I grew up with, they look 10 years older than me because they stopped working out, and the Southern food is a lot different than the California food. And fortunately, my wife's pretty good at food. So sure notice when I'm having too many peanut butter sandwiches or Dunkin' Donuts, which I love. I mean, I love all that stuff, but I've really cut down on it.
Would you want to live forever, Michael?
I beg your pardon?
Would you want to live forever?
No. If something happens to me, I don't want to go through whatever you have to go through, because I'm saying right now, I've had a great life. If I left Earth tomorrow, I got no complaints. I've met great people. I got a great family, and I got a lot of life insurance.
How come you won't want to live forever, though? What would be the side effect of that?
Well, as you age, you develop things that could affect your speaking, your hearing. It just comes with age.
So you're saying the quality of life just wouldn't be worth it?
Now, my quality of life is, I love my quality of life. I don't want that to change. And health can change it.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you bearing with this question. I think you are one of the top people to answer it, because I've been in your business before, and I was actually a retirement specialist out of college before I got into financial planning. So you're always talking about a topic that no one wants to talk about: death. It's just a part of the business. So you get to see a lot of that stuff. And the flip side is, what if death never occurred? What if we didn't have a need for life insurance? We're moving into an area now where technology is increasing, and who knows, in the next few years, maybe people will start living much, much longer than we ever thought about. And so it's something, it's a conversation that's starting to come to the front line.
Well, I was reading either the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, and they said life expectancy has gone down, not up.
Wow.
I mean, when I read it, I went, what? It's actually decreased.
Especially after COVID.
Especially after COVID.
Yeah, it could be a little biased, because of that. But thank you, Michael. I appreciate you. So, Michael, we're going to move into our Temple questions. These are all the same questions I've asked to all the superstars on this incredible podcast. All right, Mike. So my next question for you, first Temple question, would be about books, right? So can one book change the world?
Yes. Absolutely.
And I found out that you were an avid reader of Think and Grow Rich as well. So maybe you can add to that too.
Well, I tell you what, one of the greatest books I've ever read dealt with World War II, because the people who served in World War II, like my father and other people, they never ever talked about it. They never brought the subject up. And it always amazed me. And then I read a book, I think Tom Brokaw wrote it, called The Greatest Generation. And he's talking about the generation of our parents and the fathers who went to war because they loved America. They did the right thing. And that generation, he named it the greatest. It's completely different than the generation of people we have today, the people that went and fought for America in World War II. You got to read the book.
Well, I have to now.
It would change the way you think, and then you compare it to today, and it's difference between day and night.
So you agree one book could definitely change the world?
Absolutely. So if it's a great book, it will.
What role has networking played in your life? Like maybe 30 seconds.
What's that now?
What role has networking played in your life?
Network.
Yeah.
Well, networking is extremely important in my business. I mean, that's how I get my referrals. If you're talking about networking, when I deliver the policy and we're sitting and talking, I always ask the clients, you know, the only way that I generate is through referrals. And I think we did a good job together. If you have an opportunity to refer somebody, it will be greatly appreciated. And it always works. Like, you know, I got a great friend. He'd be perfect for you, Mike. And then he'd introduce me to him, and then I got another client.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mike. Mike, as an extension of that question, is mentoring important? And who are some of your mentors?
Mentor?
Mentoring. Is mentoring important?
Absolutely. I just brought in a brand new person in his late 20s. I feel so bad. I left him in the Beverly Hills office by himself while I'm out here. And I'm not spending enough time with him because I want him to go on meetings with me so he can learn. The best way to learn is by listening and doing actual interviews. So I want to take him with me on all the interviews so he can pick up the language, because the language of how you explain something is important. You have to simplify it so the client understands it. And you'd really be shocked. Even the wealthiest people do not understand the role of life insurance.
Thank you, Michael. So mentoring is important. And who were some of your mentors, though?
You know, it's funny you asked that. They were my football coaches.
Wow. Incredible. Thank you, Michael. What are your favorite financial books?
You know, I do very little financial books. I read very little. The reason is I'm always out. About the only time I get a chance to read is when I'm on an airplane.
Maybe, so if we were to say Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, if we count it as a financial book, I'd love for you to talk about that. You told me an incredible story the other day. I didn't even realize that the impact it had on your life.
Oh, it had a great impact on my life. Everybody should read that book. It came out like in the late 30s, early 40s. Think and Grow Rich is one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. And I read it when I'm down. I'll grab that book and read it again. Napoleon Hill.
Michael, if you can just hold on just 1 second. I am getting something I want to show you. And I don't want to pull my microphone out. All right, here we go. By the way, it was funny. I was making an observation a few moments ago. You couldn't hear what I said, and you went closer to the screen. And I don't know. I don't know why I did it. I went close to the screen too. And I'm like, what am I doing that for? The microphone's over here. People like, I guess people like to mirror each other. It's just human behavior. Here we go. So you're Think and Grow Rich, right?
Yep.
All right. So remember I told you I was part of that series of books. It's called The 13 Steps to Riches. I think they're up to volume 9 or 10 now.
Oh, I want to read that book.
So check it out. These are 8. We're making one book for each of the 13 steps to riches.
Wow.
This is only 8 of them. I'm in all 8 of them. There's what do you got? Up to 13, like 5 more left.
Who's the author of these books?
Eric Swanson, a friend of mine, put the series together. But we have like celebrity authors in every one. So Don Green, actually, he does the introduction for every book. Don Green's the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Here, I'll show you. Yeah, so there he goes. Don Green.
Right.
Yeah, it's the guy. So folks, if you want to listen to Don Green's interview, incredible. Yes, I just wanted to show you while we had a chance, but it's a really cool series. So, well, thank you, Michael. All right, moving on to the next question. What are your favorite? I'm sorry. Do we need money to survive? Do we need money to? I got so distracted with that incredible book series. Do we need money to survive?
We need money to survive. I need a lot more than most because I'm always traveling and entertaining clients. So I was never good at budgets. I always figured there'd always be money in the account to take care of the American Express or the Visa and the traveling and the hotel rooms. And one time in my career, there was like 3 months with no income. And they were a tough 3 months. And I couldn't figure out why. And the reason was there was embezzlement in my office. And Anthony, I trust everybody. You know, when I bring people in, I trust them to do what is right. And I had no idea this was happening until I had to hire a forensic accountant to come in to help me.
Wow. How did you get through it?
It was tough, buddy. It was tough. I had to go into, like savings. You had to go into your pension. You had to go in because it's important. I can't let my people that I work with who are very successful people, I can't let them know I'm not successful.
And you can't let them down either. Because if you let yourself down, you let everybody down.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, I had a friend, a brand new friend. We had a visit, and I wouldn't let him drive back because I thought he had 1 or 2 mini martinis. And so I told him, I go, no, you're staying here. You're staying here with me. And he says, I didn't bring what I needed to. He said, I did bring a change of clothes. I said, that's all you need, but you're not leaving till the next morning. I'll take care of everything. So that's kind of the way you work.
I'm like, that story sounds very familiar. Yeah, me wondering there.
There was no way I was letting you drive from Philadelphia after 2 martinis. And wait a minute, didn't we go to Carlisle afterwards?
Yes, we did.
Oh my God, did I dance?
I don't know, but the Uber was $22 on the way up and $11 on the way back. It was the same distance. Same time of night. There was no traffic. I don't understand.
That makes no sense.
Right. That's funny. Thank you, Michael. Michael, next question is finance necessary for everyone? Finance, the science of finance, not like financing someone, like funding, like the science, the academic version of finance. Is that necessary for everyone? Should they learn finance?
Not everyone, but let me tell you, the biggest cases that I have done, remember I told you about the $500 million case? Well, one of the largest private banks in America financed the premiums. They were loaning the money out to pay the premiums at 1.5%. This was only like less than 2 years ago. And the companies were paying 5%, the carriers. So arbitrage was phenomenal. So, and we overfunded the policies. We want to put as much cash as the IRS would allow us. So we build up the cash to cover the collateral. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So financing is a great tool if there's an arbitrage, if there's a spread.
Now, Michael, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You're using the word finance in a different sense. I'm talking about like the science. So would you say that everybody should learn how to manage their money better, which is things that the science of finance covers?
Yeah, they should, even me.
Everybody, right? We all have opportunities to improve, right?
Yep, even me.
Thank you, Michael. All right. And this might sound like common sense, though. I'm going to step back for a second, Michael. The last two questions I asked you sounds like common sense, but in reality, it's not common practice. Most people don't realize how important money is to survive, and they don't realize how important it is about learning about their money, how to make sure that they continue to survive. So that's why I asked, and I know you're very successful and you've dealt with a lot of different things related to finance. So definitely want to hear your opinion. Thank you, Michael. I'm sorry. And next question, we only got 3 questions left. How important is having a purpose in business, and what would your purpose be?
Having a personal assistant?
Having a purpose in business. How important would it be to have a purpose in business?
A purpose?
Yeah.
Oh, purpose. You got to have a purpose in everything that you do. You got to have a goal out there. I want to reach that goal. If you don't, you go, okay, I want to buy a brand new Bentley next year. That's a goal, right? What have I got to do? So this is how I think. I break it down into policies. My wife will say, I want a new Chanel pocketbook. Well, you know, those damn things are expensive. And go, okay, that's 2 policies. She goes, what? I go, it's going to take me 2 sales to get that pocketbook. That's how I break things down. I don't break it down like money. I break it down. Okay, contracts. So it's weird, but that's how it works for me. I said, okay, let me go out. Let me sell 2 people. We can get the pocketbook. Let me sell 8 people. I can get a new Bentley.
Do you accept, by the way, do you accept any kind of clients, like a regular average Joe or Jane? Would you do like $1 million policy for them?
I get a lot of referrals from business managers. So they got clients they just picked up, just starting off their career. So they're calling me up, you know, to get 3, 4, or 5 million of term insurance that maybe only costs $1,000, $2,000 a year. So by the time I do all of my stuff the way I do it, I'm going to lose money on the case.
Yeah.
But I have to do it because it's important for my source of referral. And what happens if that person hits it big?
So you don't do it for everybody. You only do it for certain people, because if you did that for everybody, you wouldn't be able to specialize the way you do.
Certain people, I have to do it. And so I've brought in some new people that I haven't trained yet because I'm here and they're there. That a lot of times I'm going to turn a lot of these cases over to them. I'm going to go introduce them to my centers of influence. And my centers of influence and I are so close, they're going to, instead of calling me, they will call him. They'll go, oh, he'll handle it.
Mm. Brilliant. What is your purpose? If you could say my purpose is in one sentence, what would be your purpose?
To make as many people that I know feel good about themselves and be happy.
Wow. I like that. I like that a lot. What would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so, and why?
Well, I want to see my family grow because my grandchildren. I want to make sure they're all taken care of. And I really want to make sure that the firm that I have built survives me. And I haven't learned yet exactly how to do that. I'm going to need coaching to help me figure out how Crouppen Partners survives without Mike Crouppen.
Well, I have the right people. You actually entered the perfect perfect group. We have a great collaboration. My mentor did a book called Exit Rich with one of the top ladies in the country that does exactly that. They build companies to exit, where they can either sell it off or retain a part of that throughout their life and keep it going. So there's a lot of different creative strategies, and there are experts that handle this kind of stuff. So,
oh my goodness, I'm going to need your help.
where's that book at? I have it downstairs. I would show you the copy. Yeah. I think Kevin Harrington endorsed it. Like Steve Forbes endorsed it. It's called Exit Rich. But yeah, absolutely. Whatever I can do to help you, Mike. You're a great guy. So, last question: what would you like to be your legacy to this world? Tough question.
No, it's not. It's not that I was a good man. I built a great business, and I had a lot of great friends.
Brilliant, brilliant, Michael. Mike, I want to. By the way, is it okay if I call you Michael? I keep calling you Michael for some reason. You call me Anthony, and I'm like, all right, maybe he likes the formal name.
What, do people call you Anthony or Tony?
My friends call me Tony. Yeah.
Okay,
but
Tony.
I respond to both. I'm the fourth, which
I'm
means
the same.
Yeah.
You call me Mike, Michael. You call me Mr. Anything. You can call me partner or buddy. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Absolutely. As long as you don't call somebody something bad, right? As long as you meant well by it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mike. I like to conclude out now. I want to thank you. I'm honored to have you here. Appreciate you, Mike, for all that you've done. And it's an honor to finally get to meet you in person yesterday. And looking forward to many, many things we're going to be doing. We got an amazing Clubhouse stage coming up in a few weeks, folks. Definitely keep coming every Friday. We got big guest speakers between 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern time on Clubhouse. And the Dr. Finance Masterclass Club's a new club. My old club I ran for 2 years, just transitioned into it. So Mike's going to be our main guest speaker from that time frame, but the stage is about 6 hours. It's going to have his name in the title. But Mike, love to leave the floor for you. Any concluding thoughts or anything you'd like to say, Mike? The floor is yours.
Well, I would like to say this being my first podcast was very enjoyable. You made it enjoyable, and I really appreciate that. And the information that I shared came from my heart. And so thank you. Tony, thank you, buddy. I really enjoyed this. And I hope the podcast went well, and I hope people understood the things we talked about.
I appreciate you, Mike. Mike, where could they find out more information about you? By the way, the feeling is mutual as well. Where can they find out more information? Your website, social media?
With my website, so one of the things I've got to do is I'm gonna redo my entire website. But you can go onto the website now and learn a lot about us. I'm gonna redo our brochures that we give to clients. I'm not on social media, I'm not on Facebook, and I don't plan to be. But M. Crouppen at CrouppenPartners.com tells you a lot about us.
That's brilliant. Mike, last thing, maybe we can do a quick check. Can you show us that cool watch again? Because I really like that turquoise Rolex that you got. I think people would appreciate that.
Can you see it?
A little bit closer to the camera. If you go, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's it.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it right there. Look at that, folks. Turquoise face of a Rolex. You want to explain that a little bit? That special watch?
Well, it was a Rolex, and then I took it to my friend, and I said, you know, I want a different face, and I want a skull and bones. So he goes, okay. So he, unbelievably, he goes under and puts out all these faces, and he says, I can put any of these faces on your Rolex.
So that's custom. There's nobody in the world that's got that.
No, this is the only guy I know.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I got a yellow one.
Oh,
I
really?
probably could have worn my yellow one because I got a yellow shirt on, but I didn't.
Turquoise matches with everything.
Well, Tony, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Michael. Michael,
Thank you.
Honored to be here. And Mike, if you could just hang out in the green room, I'm just going to conclude out now. Folks, Dr. Anthony Criniti IV, also known as Dr. Finance. You've been watching the Dr. Finance Live podcast. This is the website. You can get more information, drfinance.info. We're going to post this podcast on YouTube. We're going to put it on the website, on the podcast page. We're going to also blast it out to 20+ major podcast directories. Also, folks, if you want, definitely check out Mike's website. What was that website again, Mike?
M. Crouppen at CrouppenPartners.com.
M. Crouppen at CrouppenPartners.com. And if you're interested in learning more about finance, my first book, I wrote The Necessity of Finance about 10 years ago for my finance students. Then I moved in the next year. I wrote the most important lessons in economics and finance. And finally, in 2016, my big conclusion book, The Survival of the Richest, put all my arguments together, 500+ page book, marrying the sciences of survivalism, believe it or not, because my conclusion was finance is an extension of survival, biology, economics, finance, and saving the world all in one book. So check it out, folks. And don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe and comment. And feel free to let us know what you think as well about the show. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you again, Mike. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Everybody have a beautiful day.